Hi Sagittarius, happy early birthday and welcome to your November 2019 Astrology 33 reading. Thank you to those of you who've liked, viewed, shared, subscribed, and donated to the channel. I appreciate all of that. And for those of you interested in booking a personal reading with me, just check out the description of the video for all the information on that. Alright, so with that out of the way, we have a Celtic cross spread in front of us as always. You guys got some extra cards that popped up there. And we also have a couple of oracle cards we'll take a look at, and then a mudra card and wrap things up after that. So, getting started with the main spread. In the main situation position, we have the Justice card. So this is actually a major arcana card of Libra. So it's certainly possible that some of you could be dealing with a Libra. But more than anything, I feel like this is just saying that there will be justice served in your life. So, you know, if you feel like you've been wronged in some way, that's definitely some pretty positive news to hear. This can be around a friendship as well, since for you guys, Libra is your house of friendship. And possibly around relationships too, since Libra is the natural ruler of the 7th house. So something to keep in mind with all that as well. And we do have Mars going through the sign of Libra too. So this could even just be saying that you might be spending a lot of time with friends. And maybe they help you stay balanced, you know what I mean? Maybe just reconnecting with them. Maybe that helps you feel a little bit better. If you've been going through some tough times, that's a possibility as well. And for some of you, this could even be pointing to something in the legal system. So, you know, if there's some kind of judgment you've been waiting for regarding a legal situation, it might come through this month. And most likely will work out in your favor. So pretty positive news there. In the challenger obstacle position, we have the 7 of Swords. So, to see this come up in the challenger obstacle position, I would say that this is definitely a good card to have there, as far as it's saying that, you know, if you have been wronged in some way, like I was saying, this does look like it's saying that there will be justice served. You might feel like it was a long time coming as well, so maybe that's why this is coming up in the challenger obstacle position. This actually is a card that represents Aquarius too, so you know, this for you, that's your house of communication. So this could also just be pointing to some kind of deceptive communication. And keep in mind too that this is another connector to 11th house too. So this definitely could have been revolving around a friendship in some way, shape, or form. But yeah. And I do have to put it out there for some of you that keep in mind that if you guys are the ones who are being deceptive, then, you know, just be on the lookout, because justice is there. It doesn't care who it's coming after, it just wants justice. So, but what stands out to me, if we put it back in the spread, is this person is running directly toward the moon. So you can look at that. You know, usually I don't see the moon as a card of deception outright, but if we combine those energies, then yeah, definitely stands out that way, right? And almost the term that comes to my mind is being fed to the wolves, you know, because it's like they're running right towards the moon, but they're not even looking in that direction. And, you know, that's what popped in my mind with the visual there. So something to keep in mind there, that, yeah, you know, it might not even be, it might be more karmic justice than anything, if not something playing out in the legal system, but it definitely does seem to be at play this month. All right, in the foundation position, we have the moon card. So I'm actually recording this. We did just have a full moon in Aries at the time I'm recording this, so this could point to that for some of you, but more likely I'd say this could be pointing to maybe the new moon in your sign at the end of the month, because that's going to be a pretty supportive one. It's going to have, it's going to be making a trine aspect to Chiron in the sign of Aries, which is your 5th house, so that's going to be a pretty good new moon. And it could even point to the Scorpio new moon, since that hasn't happened yet at the time of recording it. And that moon would be, basically, that's a new moon in your 12th house. So this can't even be where maybe you get some intuition around what the situation was. And like I said, for some of you, it might not necessarily be a legal situation. It could be more karmic justice, but maybe intuitively you'll pick up on exactly what the situation was, and that will help you move forward with it as well. It can point to the full moon in Taurus as well. That seems a little less likely, I'm feeling, but let me see. I'm trying to think of what it's going to make any aspects to, if anything. No, I mean, there's not really anything that pops out to me too much with that full moon, so I wouldn't necessarily see it as that. say it's more likely the new moon situations for you guys to keep an eye on. But yeah, and then if we just look at this, excluding the moon cycles in general, we just look at the meaning of this card. What I do say to people is, I usually think of this as not outright deception usually. It can just be as simple as, let's say you're in a room you're not familiar with, then the lights go out, right? The first thing you might do is try to feel your way around the room because you're not too familiar with it, so you're not going to feel as confident walking through the room as you would if the lights were on, right? Because you could see everything around you. You might just be a little bit more cautious about how you move around the room. Not because you feel like anyone moved anything around on you, but you're not as familiar with where everything is, right? So that's how I view these situations. It's like everything technically is out in the open, right? Nothing's hidden, but just might be harder to see what's going on with the moonlight versus sunlight, which we see in the future, for example. So something to keep in mind there. So like I said, and it could just be a combination of those two things where there's something maybe you had a feeling something was off, and then maybe intuitively you start to pick up on exactly what it is. And then, like I said, if that's the case, it looks like I don't necessarily see you guys having to be the ones that dole out the justice. It just seems like it's what's at play this month, regardless. So you might even just be able to sit back and watch it unfold, basically. In the past position, we have the Eight of Swords. So to me, this could be pointing back to that situation where there could have been some deception around you. And like I said, for a lot of you, definitely could have been around friendships and maybe even romantic relationships with some of you. But maybe you were turning a blind eye to it, because, I mean, that can happen, right? If it's someone you trust and you believe in, and you get a feeling that maybe something's up, right? Maybe intuitively you've been getting feelings that, I don't know, something seems a little off. But it could be easy to talk yourself out of it too, right? Like you don't want to see it. Like, no, they wouldn't do that to me, right? Like, oh, that can't be what's going on, right? So you talk yourself out of, no, they're not really up to what I think they are. And then that could have just been the energy you've been in the past. And now maybe with these transits coming up, maybe some stuff comes to light. And you guys might feel like you're in a fog too, in a way, as far as we're going to have Mercury going retrograde in November through your 12th house. So that could definitely make you feel a little bit unsure of yourself too, where, you're like, okay, is this intuition or am I just worrying, over nothing? So that's why I say, definitely just do move carefully through your situations, but keep in mind, justice being in the main position, that's definitely a good card to have if there is something out of the ordinary taking place where, you shouldn't necessarily have to stress yourself too much as being responsible for making sure justice comes about. Could just play out karmically for a lot of you. In the present position, we have the King of Pentacles. So for those of you who maybe this is something that played out in the legal system, maybe it was some deception around money, right? Like it could have been maybe some situation where people were hiding assets from you. So, it could have been an inheritance situation, maybe a workplace thing where they were trying to claim that they didn't have as much money to give. And then you found out they really did, right? They were only showing you, this is all we have to give, when really they were pocketing a lot more themselves. Maybe if it was a business partnership situation, or maybe even some kind of child custody thing too. It could be, since I do see the sun here with the child. It could have even been something like that where someone you were trying to get child support from might have been hiding assets, and maybe that's what comes at play here. But with the King of Pentacles, it looks like that could just be pointing to that. If there was some kind of financial situation that you were due money, this can be pointing to some positive energy with that. And given that this is an energy of Taurus, this can be pointing to, especially since I am posting this before November officially kicks off, this could definitely be pointing to that new moon in Scorpio that I was talking about, because that new moon is going to be opposite Uranus in Taurus. So, and for you guys, that's 6th house of work, so it can be around some workplace stuff. And for others of you, this can just be maybe getting an intuitive hit with that new moon in your 12th house opposite Uranus, because it could give you a real sudden insight into something where maybe you just get the sudden flash of an idea that makes you realize, oh, okay, this could be a way where, if not outright just, changing what you do for work, maybe it gives you an idea of how you could save time on something, right? Maybe change your daily routine in a way that'll give you more time or save you some money, something along those lines. But regardless, this does look like you'll be feeling fairly secure financially, which is definitely a good thing no matter how it comes about, right? And of course, you can be dealing with a Taurus too, I have to mention that. All right. In the near future position, we have the Sun card and the Three of Swords. So these are like polar opposite energies for the most part, right? But there's a few ways this could be playing out. For one, if this is, again, a situation where someone who is doing you wrong, there's justice served on them, this could just be you, happy to see them going through that heartbreak of, being found out and having karma kick them in the ass, basically. That's one way it could be playing out. Another thing this could be saying, too, though, is to be mindful of your ego, and that's another thing with justice, which is to say, if you wish ill on others, right, then the justice in that could be, well, some of that same energy could come back your way. So just something to keep in mind there, too, which is to say, if you take on that childlike and or egotistical view toward, oh, well, I hope they get this, that, and the other, right? And then it could just be saying then that could just be bringing some bad energy back your way. So I know it could be easier said than done if someone did you wrong, but this could just be saying, hey, let karma even things out and just, stay on the up and up, and, things should work out better for you. Another way this could be playing out, for some of you, maybe you're even dealing with the Leo. The sun I don't necessarily see as a Leo energy, it's just that Leo is ruled by the sun, so that does tend to make us think of Leo a lot. But you do have the Strength card at the bottom of the deck too, so could definitely be something around them, and maybe they're the ones who are actually going through heartbreak if there was some kind of a situation where they were being deceptive in some way. Or maybe even the timeline, if we're thinking that maybe this is something that took place back in the time of Leo, or maybe as more recently as early October, and now you get to see the resolution of that in a positive way in November. In the position of your energy toward the situation, we have the World card. So this represents completions. I also view this as a Saturn card and also North Node. So it could just represent a life lesson that you might have had to go through and you successfully completed it. And usually there is some reward that comes with that. This could also represent travel. Long distance travel usually, and I mean, let's say if you live overseas or your family does, right, and the holidays are coming up for all of us, whether it's this month or next month for some of you, meaning December, there could be a lot of travel around that too. But more than anything, I feel like this is just pointing to whatever the situation was, it was something karmically that needed to play out, and it looks like for most of you, you are going to handle it in the right way and be rewarded for it as a result. And this also makes me think of the fact that your ruler, Jupiter, is moving through your sign, and it's going to be moving into Capricorn very early in December. So usually, as Jupiter tends to leave one sign into another, you tend to, if you've been putting in the work correctly and staying on the up and up, you tend to get the rewards of that as it's on its way out. So there could be some positive news coming your way in that regard too. In the environment position, we have the Ace of Wands. So this could just be pointing to a fresh start coming your way. So like I said, if you wrapped up a cycle here, where for some of you it could even gone the legal route, for others though, this could be something that played out more karmically. It looks like there could be a fresh start on the table for some of you. What I always say with the Ace energies is, to me, they're more in the idea stage as opposed to something actually taking place. And the reason I say that is the cloud makes me think of an idea. And then you have the hand coming out from the cloud, and also the neutrality of the color in the background. It's saying this is an opportunity at play, but action needs to be taken. So obviously you have the decision. Do you want to put in the effort toward it, or do you want to just let it pass, right? Either way, it's fine, but there is opportunity on the table. So something to keep in mind there. And obviously this could be someone coming to you and wanting to have a new start in some way. So can this be related to Mercury retrograde, and maybe it's someone from your past hoping for a fresh start? It is possible, but this can just represent a new connection altogether. But you should keep in mind, though, that since Mercury will be retrograde the first 3 weeks, and it'll still be in shadow through the rest of the month, Just be cautious around the new start too. You don't necessarily have to turn anything down, but don't jump into it necessarily either. Give it a little more time. So you make sure you're seeing the situation clearly. In the hopes or fears position, we have the Nine of Swords, the Ten of Wands, and the Two of Pentacles. So, interesting cards here. I'm going to assume that these are all fears, actually. Now, for some of you, this can just be saying that you fear that all of the hard work you've been putting in, right, won't lead to anything. And, at the end of the day, you'll still be struggling, right? Like for those of you, if you haven't gone through some financial struggles of some kind. For others of you, what I do find interesting about this is these two cards are side by side in the zodiac. This actually represents the last 10 degrees of Sagittarius, and this represents the first 10 degrees of Capricorn. So for some of you, this could even be you're stressing about the holidays already, which, that happens. And that's why the holiday season could be rough for so many people. They start to stress themselves out so much over something that's supposed to be about joy and celebration, but then people just get so caught up in their head about wanting everything to be perfect, and then they put way too much on their calendar to get done during that time, and then that's where we see this energy play out, right? I mean, think about it. How often do we feel this way, right, as we're coming up toward the Christmas season or whatever you celebrate toward the end of December? All right, I got to get my work done, I got to go shopping for gifts, I got to make dinner, I got to go visit my family, I got to do this and that. Then you're worried about the finances around all the money you're spending, right? So that's a common theme that a lot of people could go through during that time of year. So can this be saying that you might already be worrying about that? And in the outcome position, we have the Two of Wands. So to me, this represents the progress from that Ace of Wands energy. And another thing that this makes me think of as well is, as I was saying earlier, towards the end of the month, there's going to be a new moon in your sign, and that new moon is going to be trine Chiron, which is actually in the first 10 degrees of Aries, which this card represents those degrees. And around that same time, Venus is actually going to be conjunct Jupiter in your sign too. So that's going to be a really cool transit for a lot of you. So maybe this is where, you're just ready to have a fresh start in something. So maybe something that's more in the idea stage early in the month. By the end of the month, you're actually ready to take action on it. And for some of you, given that we do see the World card and we see him holding the globe, for some of you, it can just be as simple as you're taking some kind of a big trip that you've wanted to take. Maybe you guys have been really hard at work, or maybe money has been held up for you, right? And maybe you've been waiting on some resolution with that. Maybe you finally have it. Now you could proceed with the plans that you had. All right, and then one more thing to say with the Strength card. As I was saying, it could just be a warning as far as the ego with the Sun card and the Three of Swords beneath it. And then if we look at the artwork, it looks like she's trying to close the lion's mouth. And to me, I usually see the lion as ego in the situation. So it's like taming the ego, with the Strength card. So just something to keep in mind there. Like I said, maybe it looks like for a lot of you, things are going to be going great. But with the Justice card there, like I said, it could just be saying that be mindful of how you handle that success, right? Which is to say, maybe gloating or, being happy to see others go through not so good times that might end up just creating bad karma for you guys, all right? I really don't feel the majority of you are going to be feeling that way at all, but I did just want to at least put it out there. All right, moving on to the Oracle cards. First, we have Regeneration. There's the artwork for it, and the number is 46. So we'll see what that has to say first. Okay, it says rebirthed, second chances, new opportunities. The Oracle's message. Second chances are available to you now. Whatever opportunities you thought were dead are now revived in a more authentic, stronger form. Whatever you may have perceived as a failure or a loss is now being replaced by something better and more powerful growing in its place. This rebirth is assured. Step into your new life. Destiny is being fulfilled in wondrous ways. So, what comes to me there it was talking about the new opportunities initially. That makes me think of the Ace of Wands, right? And then as far as saying that things you might have thought were a failure or a loss being replaced by something better, that almost makes me think of that Seven of Swords thing. Like I said, maybe if you do feel like you were wronged in some kind of way where someone might have taken something from you, with the Justice card and now seeing this message as well, could just be saying that whatever you do, whatever you did lose, just rest assured it will come back to you in a better way than before. And that could definitely be the karmic thing that we were talking about coming into play, right? All right, the relationship message says the world is based on connections and relationships. No matter what loss has occurred in the past or even now, death and endings are only illusions. There is life after death, love after loss, and in this moment, you are radiating the regenerative life force energy that makes you irresistible to love in all forms. Now is the time when you will see evidence of this new emergence. Can you feel it? Love is rising up to greet you. So, like I said, for a lot of you, I didn't necessarily pick up on this being a romantic vibe. For a lot of you, I do feel this is more friendship, maybe workplace thing than anything. But, maybe that's something that you've been processing from the past, right? Maybe it was some kind of a relationship that did split apart. And maybe the Ace of Wands is saying now that you've learned the lessons from that and put it behind you, now something new can be on the table for some of you. Especially because, like I said, that new moon in your sign trining Chiron in your fifth house can point to romance sometimes too. Usually that's a newer relationship, so maybe that's pointing to that there. All right, the prosperity message says, what happens when it appears you failed at something? Do you see the beauty in the lesson? The understanding that arises from difficulties is like a seed that lies dormant for a time. Then once it germinates in your subconscious, it pushes through into your awareness. It is becoming apparent that there is a new you, a new start, a more powerful version and form of what you began to plant in the garden of your imagination has surfaced. You are ripe for success. New opportunities, much better than those that came before, appear like gifts from the gods. Now is one of those times when out of seeming loss and failure comes remarkable abundance. Do not dwell on the past because you really are experiencing a rebirth. So, pretty cool message there. And, the world card in a way, even though it represents more of a completion, that almost makes me think of rebirth energy as well. It does come right after the judgment card, which to me is the rebirth card. So, something to keep in mind there. All right. Next, we'll look at the card from the Spirit Animal Oracle that you guys got. And you got Stag Spirit. It says, take the lead. There's the artwork. And the number is 58. All right, it says, whether or not you have set your intention to lead, you may have found yourself suddenly called to step up to the forefront of your life. Stag Spirit is a reminder that now is a time to heed the call to be sure, strong, and compassionate. Others will look to you, and you have it within you to see through the eyes of Stag Spirit and walk with confidence as you take on the responsibilities that are yours now and model integrity in all that you do and in all your relationships. Be willing to see the best in others so that your compassionate heart keeps you on the right path. Stag Spirit wants you to know that your responsibilities now are to yourself too, for you are learning and developing new skills. The best in you is coming into view as you step forward with strength, knowing that Spirit supports you as you compassionately take the lead. You are a model for transformation now, sharing your experience, strength, and hope with others so they may grow and discover their best selves too. What a gift you are. Stay humble and authentic, and walk your talk, for this is how a wise leader leads. So interesting, it referenced strength a few times, and we do see that at the bottom of the deck for your reading. And then what I like too is it was talking about stay humble and authentic. That's what we were talking about with the Justice card and the Sun with the Three of Swords underneath it, which is saying, hey, yeah, things, people might be getting what was coming to them and you might have been reaping the rewards of that. But, try to just understand that, don't get too caught up in seeing them suffer too and then inviting bad energy back in your life in the process, So definitely a pretty cool message there. Hopefully that resonates for you guys. All right, and then finally we have a mudra card for you, and the one that you guys got for this month is Kurma mudra. There it is there. The keyword for it is patience, and I'll turn it over so you could see some of the information on it. Alright, and I'll leave it up for a bit if you wanted to pause it or take a screenshot to read what it has to say. But not everything fits in the frame here, as you can see, so I'm just going to move it up so you can see the rest too. Okay. It says activates the body's self-healing power, balances the immune system, harmonizes the relationship between the heart and the kidneys. So if you think that sounds like something that would be beneficial to you, I will leave the name of that in the description of the video as well. We'll wrap up there. Like I said, once again, happy early birthday to you guys, and I'll see you next month. All right, bye.